warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Salsabila and today I will to show you a videos that have been available for as an education on how to teach a teenager with my friends Pratiwi and Shabrina Eva.
An important aspect of teaching teenagers is getting their attention and keeping it. In this video, we're going to look at 3 tips to do this, along with some practical ideas you might try with your classes. Knowing what your students like and dislike, both in terms of activities and general interests, will naturally help students to stay more motivated during classes. At the start of the course, a competitive quiz can help you learn something about your students and also familiarise them with the organisation of your coursebook. Split the class into teams and ask one student to be the spokesperson. Only the spokesperson can give a team's answer. Then start asking questions about your coursebook, if necessary in your student's first language. For example, how many units are there? What starts on page 125? After, say, 10 questions, finish the quiz by asking each team to decide on the unit that looks the most interesting and why. Make a note of their preferences and try to bring these subjects into lessons whenever possible.
Okay, let's talk about the first tips. The first tip is now about your student. This video explains how we can understand what our students like and dislike to keep students motivated in attending class. This tips is also explained that to identify the characters of students, we can give them a course books and make them a teamwork. So we also have the right to appoint one team member to be a spokesperson. And when the spokesperson explain what they do, then ask them about based on the question in the course book. Then ask them which part they like and make a note of their work so you can make the teaching note for your teaching materials. Based on the tips, in my opinion, these tips are very good and correct in teaching teenagers because the teenagers should be given the opportunity to think then and share their thoughts in group. With that, they can also make a presentation in front of their friends. This can help students in building of their confidence in front of many people. And so, let's move in the tips 2.
Teenagers have shorter attention spans than adults. This means it is crucial to give as few excuses as possible for their minds to wander. First, be very explicit with task instructions. If students are working in pairs, who are they working with? Do they need to take turns? How long do students have to do the activity? Is there a time limit? Second, vary common activities to keep students listening and motivated. For example, instead of drilling new vocabulary using the audio, model it yourself. Try changing the tone of your voice, for example, whispering the vocabulary, and ask your students to do the same. Are you about to begin a reading about a real person or a place? Before you read, give your students a few minutes to find 3 facts about the person or place on their phones. Reward original answers and then use this information as a quick scanning task to see which facts are mentioned in the text.
I totally agree with the second tip in the video. Why? Because teenagers do have a relatively short focus time. This is due to the fact that they are easily bored with the same things that will happen again. This is what teenagers need, namely working in pairs or groups. This work will require enough time for teenagers so that their minds can wander freely looking for answers that they think are right and working together at one time will require an exchange of opinions. This exchange of opinion will produce pro and con opinions. This is where the role of the teacher is taken, namely by limiting time in completing their group assessment. Then the second statement is good and can make the class interactive, where the teacher can provide fun material such as playing word puzzle. This will inspire students to participate. The teenage students will also be more focused on listening and motivated to think extra in finding answer according to what makes the grade. It can be concluded that teaching adults and students requires good and consistent instruction and a variety of activities in the classroom.
Sometimes lessons don't go to plan. Your students can't understand a concept or activity, or perhaps they simply aren't listening. This isn't unusual, of course. Young brains need a break. So when you recognize this situation in your classroom, it's time to change direction. Use extra resources in your coursebook, such as puzzles. Get students up on their feet to play a game. And at the end, get them to sit next to someone new. Or simply tell your class a memorable story of your own, related to the topic. The aim here is to get back students' attention and help them to engage with the lesson again.
My response to the video that I agree with the learning tips that is trying to make several different strategies for teaching and learning activities because teenagers get bored easily and we have to restore that focus. In my opinion, the selected tips are an effective ways to make teenagers focus back on the lesson. We can replace the material with the material in the game or in the story. This method makes teenagers more interesting in explaining the material than just sitting and listening to the material. Teachers must be prepared to use various ways of presenting material so that teenager students feel comfortable in class and don't feel bored in the class. Okay, I think it's enough from our groups. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.